Alright, this is something new I'm going to be trying on the channel. Every week, I watch a handful of horror films, some new, some overlooked, and instead of just doing short, reel formats, I want to sit down and actually talk through them. This week had some range. We've got a horror comedy, bleak European folk horror, one of the most brutal possession films in recent years, and a revenge-driven short horror film with practical creature effects. Let's get into it. Let's start light. Werewolves Within is a horror comedy about a group of strangers snowed in together at a rural hotel. They quickly begin to realize that someone among them might actually be a werewolf. What works here is the tone. The humor actually lands, it doesn't feel forced. Sam Richardson plays the awkward but well-meaning sheriff perfectly, balancing comedy with just enough tension to keep it from becoming a parody. The werewolf design is solid. The kills are more brutal than you'd expect. Where it stumbles is the pacing. The reveal feels abrupt, and the structure feels slightly uneven. For concept, I gave this one a 5 out of 10. For characters, I gave this one a 6 out of 10. And for impact, I gave this one a 6 out of 10, resulting in a final score of 5.7 out of 10. Fun, not essential, but worth a watch. Now, we shift into bleak European dread. Moloch follows a woman slowly uncovering her family's connection to a curse that's deeply rooted in the land. This is slow, intentionally slow. It leans into atmosphere over spectacle. The lore is dark and compelling. The characters feel grounded, and it builds dread quietly instead of loudly. But here's the trade-off. The reveal doesn't hit as hard as it should have. It leans into that familiar European fatalism, and while that works tonally, it doesn't fully realize itself emotionally. For concept, I gave this one a 6.5 out of 10. For characters, I gave this one a 6 out of 10. And for impact, I gave this one a 5.5 out of 10. That gave us an overall score of 6 out of 10. Solid, controlled, but not unforgettable. Now we go to the opposite extreme. When Evil Lurks is an Argentinian possession film that spreads like an infection. Two brothers try to escape a demonic possession that behaves almost like a disease. This movie is not for everyone. It completely reinvents possession horror by making the rules feel chaotic and inevitable. No one is safe. No one is safe. Remember that. And when I say this film is brutal, I mean brutal. The pacing locks you in, and the escalation is relentless. If I have one critique, it's that we only get a glimpse into this world's larger mythology. There's clearly more going on, and I hope they explore that further. For concept, I gave this one an 8 out of 10. For characters, I gave this one a 7.5 out of 10. And for impact, I gave this a 9 out of 10. That gives us an overall score of 8.2 out of 10. This is one of the most uncompromising horror films in recent years. Finally, I also watch one short film every week that I try to spotlight on Saturdays. This week's short spotlight is Bugaboo. I already fully disclosed that I did have a small hand in the making of this one, just that I provided some sound assistance and wrote a death metal cue that you can hear at about the halfway mark, but this was my honest take of the film itself. This is a revenge-driven horror film that is about a woman who has a supernatural method of exacting justice, and it leans heavy into some practical creature effects. The concept is fresh. It nods to revenge classics, but adds that supernatural element that we usually don't see. The creature design is fully practical and completely unsettling. It's tight, efficient, and doesn't overstay its welcome. If I had one critique, I'd love more mythology about the entity. But for a short runtime, it accomplishes what it set out to do. This week was a perfect example of how wide horror can stretch. From horror comedy to atmospheric dread to full-on brutality. The genre doesn't have one speed. If you're new here, I also post 60-ish second reviews throughout the week, breaking these films down individually. Let me know what I should watch next, and if you had to pick something to watch from this list, which movie would it be?